Everything is a leadership issue. And so if something isn't working, it's a result of leadership is not understanding how to do things correctly or not executing properly. And when those two things get shored up, things change. Once that gets changed, then the next big problem is the middle management level. That level can make you or break you because that's where the communication breakdown happens in terms of, well, they said this, but I interpreted it this way, and so therefore I have this different result. So it's about getting that understanding all the way through the organization by understanding that the management development, the leadership development, the execution, the strategy, the marketing, the sales, all those pieces must come together. And if you just take one piece and try to do that, or if you have all these pieces but they're not talking to each other, you're going to spend a lot of money and get nowhere quickly.
If you go to your tellers and you say, oh, this year we're going to have return on assets of 1.6, do they get excited? No, okay? In fact, they will feel violated at the core of their being because they feel like you are manipulating them to go use somebody else. But if you say to them, listen, everyone in our market will retire with financial independence. That's your job. Will that create different behaviors? Yeah, you don't have to talk about cross-sales because now they're telling people you need to have this because we need to get you on the path to being financially independent. It's the words of power because it's about service.
Well, I remember when I first started working, I thought someone had passed around a memo before I got there that said, check your personality at the door. And it appeared as if to work was to not have joy, not have fun, not do things passionately, but kind of like do things off the list and go home. And I remember thinking there's just got to be some way to engage the personality and engage the soul in the workplace. And so for me, I remember the day that it occurred to me that I could make a difference in the workplace by getting people to understand that we're there to be of huge contribution, we're there to have a ball, and when we do that, the customers come, they buy more, profits happen, there's more money left over for bonuses at the end of the year, because everything just begins to work.
I remember years ago I walked into a bank as a result of a gentleman asking me to come in. I was speaking at a bank CEO conference about this size, and this guy came up to me afterwards and he said, you know what, our bank is on the way to the airport. Would you be so kind as just to stop by? I can't figure out what isn't working here, but it's just not working. And can you just kind of come by and just, tell us, what do you see? And so I said, sure, I can come in somewhere around 2 o'clock or so, and I'll be taking a taxi back to the airport, so I'll be having it sit there, so I can't stay for long, but I'd be happy to come in for about 10 minutes. So I called ahead to confirm to make sure he had not forgotten. As I call in, they answer the phone, hello. I said, I'm sorry, I must have the wrong number. She says, who do you want? I said, well, I was calling for a bank. She says, this is a bank, who do you want? Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out something's wrong here. And so when I walked in at 2 o'clock that day, as I walked in, all I could see was Parts disease. You know Parts disease? Parts. Nobody looked up, nobody made eye contact, nobody was having any joy. You could tell people were truly miserable at their work. The tellers were miserable, the loan officers were miserable, it permeated the whole organization. I went to the president's desk. I sat down in his area, he got off the phone, he calls me in. I said, Jack, they're not having any fun out there. And he gets up and he closes the door and he walks back to the table that we were sitting at, and as he sits down, I notice that there's a tear coming down his left cheek. He says, I hate working here. I said, Jack, you're the president. If you hate this, what do you suppose is going on for them? Here's my point. People feel the energy when they walk into your bank. If you as a leader don't have any joy, what happens to your people? They don't have any joy. When they don't have any joy, what happens to the customers when they walk in? They quickly become joyless as well. Do they want to buy more from you when they feel lack of joy? One of the most important marketing principles to understand is creating that vivaciousness. I can't tell you the battle I go through on a daily basis with CEOs who really think it's all about the Excel spreadsheet and the budgets and the cost containment, all those things. Yes, all of those have their place, but it's not what it's about. The emphasis at some point in life went away from the heart and into the head, but all truly great things happen from the heart. Nobody runs a successful business with their head. Now, you got to know some things. but you got to run from the right place. And that's the subconscious level at which they make those decisions, because we're letting them know how we feel about them when they walk in the door.
The other thing about transformation is it's not something that just happens once. It is an ongoing process. So even though you can have a huge shift immediately, we never arrive. We just never arrive. I teach this stuff, and sometimes I catch myself doing things and I'm thinking, wake up, you're not paying attention to life, you know better. And you know, the good part about that is I already know enough to know that I will never arrive. I will never have this completely figured out. But I do know how to clean up my messes when I make a mess now, and apologize and get back on the horse to make it happen again, so that I don't have to have a continued series of messes. And I think our role and our understanding is to have every day be a little bit better than the last day in terms of our awarenesses and our understanding about how we impact the people around us, and how we decide to create in the world as opposed to wait for the world to create for us.
And that's what you need to be doing as managers, is you need to go, I'm going to be talking in a while about how to deal with negative behaviors, but the person who has the negative behavior, you must go right to them and ask for what you want in a very specific way and be very, very concrete. You can't let that stuff slide. Because what I find is that the biggest problem we have with banks that don't do as well in our programs is they're not dealing with the dysfunctional stuff. They let it go. They think, well, that's just how it is. That's just how it is when you allow it. You have to go down the throat of that stuff in a kind, loving way, ask for what you want. So notice how you're not trying to hurt somebody. You're stepping into the shoes saying, I care enough about you, you're miserable. This is not your fit. Or it's not your choice to fit. And so, but you got to think about this. Now what happens is typically they come back the next day, and when they walk in, one of two things will happen. Either they'll say, one of three things will happen. Either they're going to say, you're right, I did a lot of soul searching, I've been a dweeb. And I've really been sucking the rails dry, and it's not been fair to other people, and I'm going to stop things. And there'll be tears, and it's kind of messy, so guys, you're going to have to deal with that. It's the guys that cry. So it can get a little messy, but it's worth the 30 seconds of mess for the years of cleanup. So you got to go through the mess. And so oftentimes they'll say, I've been a jerk. Oftentimes they'll say, I've got personal problems at home. And I know I've been playing this out here. That is very often what they say. So that's one scenario. And then you say, you know what? I'm so glad you made that decision. And then you do Holly's remark of how can I help you make that happen, knowing that you're the one accountable to make the choices. Okay, so monkey is always on their back. You never put the monkey on your back. They're responsible for their behavior. As a manager, you are not responsible for their behavior. Monkey is on their back. So that's one scenario. Another scenario is they come back and say, yeah, well, I made some choices. I'm gonna stick around, and I'll be better. Now, what they're really doing is they're getting their resume through the fax machine, and that's just great. Okay, that is a perfectly good opportunity because what's happening there is they're looking for a job. Well, they have a job. You don't have the messy HR file stuff. You don't have to be walking out the door with all that embarrassment. It's easier on everybody. But they're also on notice that you behave while you're here because we're watching you. And you start talking to customers or other employees about how bad it is, you're gone. Because they're very aware that you've taken a stand with them. And the other thing that can happen is that they just say, you're right, I'm out of here. And usually they're pretty, essentially once you take the crud away and don't let them get away with the crud, they're essentially pretty good people and basically say, you're right, this isn't a good fit, I need to go find a fit. And then you can basically say to them, great, you can work here while you're finding something, because it'll take us a while to fill your position anyway, and so we know that you'll treat our customers well and treat our employees well and be very positive around them. So you set that expectation with them, and we can count. As long as we can count on that, let's make this as easy on all of us as possible. And and I really appreciate you being honest. And it's just that simple, and that's the conversation.
Nobody understands that when you just engage humans to be alive and passionate for what they do, and to be massively powerful in front of customers to make a difference for them, that companies turn around, and they turn around on a dime.